Do you wanna know what's going round? See what's the talk of the town on Real Talk on the radio today.
And welcome to Real Talk 97.5 FM. This is John Rawlings, the voice of Northport right now. I am actually sitting in Georgia, working my way south. So I'll be home shortly. My wife is in Roses, doing a little bit of shopping while I'm on the road. And while I'm on the radio with Tricia Wisner. How are you doing?
I'm good, John. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired today. We had a rough night last night, but we're on our way back home. And my son, John, and his family are getting settled in their house in Muncie, Indiana. He is now the technical director for Ball State University. So lots of happenings going on in Muncie for the Rawlings family. So how are you doing today, Tricia?
I am well, thank you. I was recently
Hold on, you're breaking up. We're going to do a quick sound check.
In Georgia too. I was up there for school this last weekend, so lots of traveling through Georgia.
Fantastic. You're fading in and out just a little bit. Can you log back out and come back in real quick? Just log back out and log back in. Go. If you can log back out. So we're going to come right back. She's going to log out and come right back in.
I'm working on it. It's not.
Yeah. That'll kind of hopefully clean things up a little bit. We kind of got right on at the tail end, and hopefully she'll pop back on here real quick and we'll get her taken care of. But we're, I know we're having some difficulties with the rain and different things like that. We're going to have this conversation with her. Do you guys, while we're waiting on her to come back on, do you have any questions in regards to public works? So I'm going to add her back in. How are you doing?
Is this any better?
Oh, fantastic.
I'm good. Can you hear me now? Okay,
yeah,
good.
Fantastic. So give a quick overview of who you are and the position you hold.
Thanks. My name is Tricia Wisner. I am the Assistant Director of Public Works for the City of Northport. Our department has 6 primary divisions. So we have administration, engineering, road and drainage, solid waste, fleet, and facilities. So we handle a lot of the things that we hope the city residents take for granted. You know, being able to get to and from school or work or to soccer games on roads that you can rely on, sidewalks that you're not worried about, that your trash is picked up without you even thinking twice about it. We're always hopeful that, you know, you appreciate living in the city of Northport and don't even know the work we're doing.
Well, and I'm kind of going to hit I think a hot topic because of the rains and different things like that. And I know Chuck English is not a fan of me saying the misinformation that's out there. Well, in this situation, there is a ton of misinformation that is out there right now. Can you talk about how the city kind of governs the water flow in the canals and make sure everything is ready and willing to handle storms that may come in?
This is a great subject, and we were just talking about this because there is a difference of understanding of what the system is truly designed for. The system was designed for about a 5-year storm. So we've been seeing storms with higher intensity and frequency than in the past. So we're working on charting that. But the storm water is meant to work its way through the swale system. We have an open swale system and take some time to get through the swale system. There was a video posted on one of the Northport Facebook pages where it showed this car just sliding down, and the comments were like, wouldn't it be great if the water was so fast that things slid through like that. Um, the city would actually really not like that. Charlotte County wouldn't like that. It would be detrimental to the environment, the ecology of our wonderful area. So, John,
So I think you're stuck.
built out Northport, the
Yeah.
stormwater management.
So the
I show
quick
that I have good connection, so I'm not sure. Is there?
I'm working on it on my end. I think you're in great shape. I I have my
Okay.
ABC puck out, so it should be picking things up good. I'm going to go off and check my side again, but can you go ahead and can you tell us what changes and updates the city are taking due to climate change and talk, kind of talk about that, and I'll go check my connection and come right back to you.
All right, perfect. So the city is the stormwater system was designed to manage the water as it comes, and I think one of the confusing topics is about water on the street. When it rains, and it rains significantly, the water that's in the swale continues to move. But if it's so much water, it will crest on the road a little bit. Some roads get more than others. There's some very low areas within Northport, but this whole system was designed to really work together. The water comes through the north or from the north through the city, and it kind of travels towards the west, and then it goes through the creek and down. One of the things that we are looking to do is to deal with blockages that were in the Myakkahatchee Creek following Ian. There's close to 200 blockages that have been documented by an outside engineering firm. They've evaluated what those blockages mean as far as how water is getting through the system. And obviously, if that's our primary route for water to leave the system, if there's major blockages in there, the water is going to take longer to get through the system. So that is one of the things that we're looking at within the next few months. We do have a project that has been backed by the National Resource Conservation Service. It has been permitted by the DEP and Army Corps of Engineers and SwiftMud. So all of these organizations have helped us look at this creek, these blockages, to evaluate what the best route would be as to how to remove those so that we can keep water flowing. So water flowing through the system, though, like I was mentioning before, speed is not necessarily our highest goal. We want the water to sit in the system for a little bit. It helps clean out, road debris or chemicals from our cars, so that when it gets to the harbor or lakes, wherever the water routes to, it will be cleaner for whoever lives there. So we care about our finned and furry friends that are down there, so that the water gets to them in as clean of condition as we can. John, I cannot hear you.
Kind of going to hit this with Ian and all the other storms that we have. We take great care of our canals pre any storm, correct?
Yes, sir. So we maintain our swales constantly. There's, the mowing of swales. There's our water control structures. We have 64 water control structures in the city. We can manage some of the water through gates. Some of them are fixed weirs, but we do have 24 gated structures that we can adjust the level of the water that's flowing through. They're not dams. They are actually water control structures so that we can move it through the system. While the creek is our primary route, there are other north, south. You've seen them, we can route water too, so it's not all going to one area. And we're able to see where the water is going. We watch gauges that have been put in place by our friends at USGS, not just the city of Northport gauges, but all the USGS gauges. And it's very interesting to look at the hydrology and how water will flow through and what avenues we're taking. Before storms, during storms, we're always watching the water to make sure that we're on top of water flow, not just for managing it for stormwater, but this is our drinking water as well. So we are diverting water to make sure that it gets near the water treatment plants so that the city has plenty of fresh water.
Well, you can see I'm adding myself from all angles right now. Um,
I like it.
Listen,
I wish
I've
I
got
could
myself.
double myself. That would be
Uh,
great.
I wish I could do that myself, but you know, the funny thing is I'm kind of working through some connectivity issues, which I've got great connectivity. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes.
It's strange how it's kind of going in and out right now, but um, you know, I brought up our canals for a lot of different reasons though, because a lot of the social media groups that are out there with the misinformation that we have, um, you've got a true uphill battle because we don't have a lot of TV coverage, so to speak. So social media is the way to push content out. You guys do a great job doing that. Website information, you guys do that. It's another great way. And I think your social media presence overall as a city, it's gotten much better. And trying to get content out about these specific topics. I've followed a lot of the groups though, and a lot of them are under the impression that we're reactionary. We wait until the storm actually hits and then we make adjustments. I want you to talk about the preparation that comes into play as the storm approaches, let alone when it's here. And it doesn't really matter what storm. I believe it was Chuck that spoke the other night about the gauges up in the market area that he uses to watch the water and how that's
Absolutely.
brought into our city. And all
Those are
those
the US. I'm
go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Those are the USGS gauges that I was just referencing. So if you go online and you can just even search USGS gauges, you'll be able to see the different gauges that are in our area that we use constantly to help us monitor where the water is going. And we can use those gauges and that information to help maintain where the water control structures, how we're using those and kind of route water through the system in the best way possible. Now, our team is always watching the water to make sure that we're at the best levels. We will have people that get frustrated if the water level is too low. We'll have people that get worried if the water level is, but we do have experts that have working this. We have professionals that understand hydrology, right levels. Now, there are some difficulties with this. The frequency and intensity 24 hours, that's going to cause any system to back up a little bit. And we were talking trying to come up with a good example as to, what would be things, if you were doing a lot of dishes and your sink is full with water and you go to pull the plug or the drain and it takes a few minutes for it to the sink isn't not working. The sink is working just as it should. The water couldn't rush through any faster. And that's kind of a similar thing for our system. While, the second it stops raining, there'll be water around for a little bit, but that's how these systems have been designed. And these systems were not just designed by GDC on their own. These systems were permitted at a state level. So when we go to make changes or look at rehabilitation of the swales, they go back to these original designs that were approved by engineers. We're not just, kind of eyeballing it and say, oh, I think we can make the water go faster if we dig a little deeper here or make it a little higher there. We need to make sure that we are using the proper tools. These have to be approved based upon the permitted plans. So there's a lot that goes into the the way that water moves through the city. Now, that being said, we are at the end of a watershed. So all the water from Mayaca City, that whole area will come through to us. Now, the way watersheds work in Florida is there's a whole bunch of them, and they're kind of underground ways that the water routes. So we're not going to get the water from Tampa. So just because it's north of us doesn't mean that's the way the water is going to come. But we know where the water is coming from, and we're constantly watching to see how we're going to be able to move that through the system and still save the water for drinking water.
Thank you for carrying on there a little bit. Sorry about that. I what are some of the hot topics that you want to discuss that are happening within Public Works right now?
Well, one that I think people might know just a little bit about is Price Boulevard Widening Project. The city is very excited to move forward with this, and I know that there's a lot of speculation. I know that it's taking quite some time. This is a really, really big project. I hear a lot that, the referendum passed in November of 22. Why isn't the road built yet? Well, we had obviously Hurricane Ian and learned some lessons from Hurricane Ian about how water works. Water destroyed 4 crossings at Price. So that, water is strong. It will find a way. So we went back to the engineer and had those crossings redesigned. We're also working on the redesign of the Mayacahatchee Creek Bridge to make sure that it is sustainable for the future. This project is going to definitely make a positive way when it is complete, but it will be a little painful while the project is happening. So we're widening lanes with one center continuous turn lane in the middle, and not access and transportation by multimodal paths. So family pushing a stroller, somebody riding a bike, and somebody walking to just get in and out, up and down Price. It will change the view of Price, but it's going to be extremely important for the city and for transportation going forward.
Fantastic. I'm having a great time sitting in my truck trying to figure this out right
So
now.
I
As you
see
can see,
Mr. English's question.
he very good.
I'll just run with the show. I'm sure
Just
we can
do,
do this.
just do. You're doing a great job.
Well, Mr. English has a question. And he's asking about was the existing drainage system designed for the level of development the city is experiencing today? And I think one interesting thing is that um, as we have those large developments that come online, they have to manage their water on their parcel. So that actually helps us a little bit. Prior to those developments coming online, the water from that parcel would go into our system and be part of the water that we're managing. So you'll see with the building, the apartments on Sumter that, they're a change for the city of Northport. So I understand that we're all seeing that and we're saying, oh my goodness, what does this mean for us? They're holding their water on their parcel. So any water that they used to have for that parcel that would go into our swales are now being held there. The stormwater system was designed for full build out. It did have the idea that there were going to be this many rooftops and this much water that would be coming. Now, full build out at that time probably didn't have the same frequency and intensity of storms in those calculations. That is definitely something that we're seeing and working through as we're managing the water through the system. And I think I lost John again. So, back to price widening though, that project, we are anticipating going out to bid for that in the very near future. We've worked a lot with FDOT on this, the Florida Department of Transportation. We're lucky to have a $1.5 million grant included in our funding for this project. That's going to help with some of the costs for the crossings. But to do that, FDOT needs to review all of our plans. And so we've gone back and forth to make sure that we've meeting all the expectations for that grant. So on top of redesigning everything, going through the FDOT review to make sure that we're meeting grant expectations has, caused us to not have the road built within 2 minutes of the referendum. But we'll be going out to bid within the next week or so, and we anticipate having a contractor on by November, and hopefully starting this work before the new year. The work will take a couple years, 2 to 3 years is anticipated. And we do anticipate having at least one lane of travel in each direction open during the whole time. Now, there'll be times, especially when we're doing the crossings, that we'll have to close the road and have a detour. We're going to work really carefully on those to try to mitigate our impact on traffic, knowing that this is a vital connection for our community.
Fantastic. All these things that are happening to me right now have happened to the city in different time frames too. We've had to regroup as far as Price Boulevard goes, with looking at the bridges and making sure that with redesign they can sustain Ian again. That's part of the reason that there was a delay with Price, right?
Absolutely. Now, nothing we build will ever be as strong as Mother Nature. If water wants to get through, water will find a way. But we're definitely working to design it as strong as possible within, budgetary constraints. If somebody were to say right now, build the city so that it will never have water on the roads, never have water in the swales, that the second it rains, there it looks like it never rained. I think our assessments would at least triple. It's just not a sustainable design. So knowing that, and knowing that trying to build to that level is also not good for the environment and ecology. It doesn't allow the water to be cleaned. There is some give and take where we have to say, well, we could spend a lot of money and have completely dry roads within just a, half an hour of a storm, or we could, have a little bit of inconvenience with some of the water in our swales for 3 days, knowing that it's percolating out the dirt and debris that's in there. And that when it gets to the fins and feathers down at the end, that it's in a better shape for them.
Well,
but it is a hard balance.
It's a hard balance, but it's also a balance that we're getting better at each and every day. I believe we're getting challenges thrown at us by Mother Nature. It seems like every rainstorm brings something different, whether it be the amount or location. That storm that hit the Venice and Sarasota area a few weeks ago, if that would have been here, we would have been in another situation that we had with Ian. We only missed that by what, 20 miles from entry
And we
point.
did take significant rain that day as well. So there was some differences with these last couple storms. We hadn't had the rain that Sarasota had already had. So their canals, their stormwater system was pretty full when Debbie came rolling through. We had been able to get a lot of that water out that we had seen from previous storms before that storm comes. We're not always able to do that. If you get 3 to 4 back-to-back storms and then a big storm, there's not enough time to get the water through the system. It takes a little bit of time, just like we were talking about with the sink. So we do our absolute best to make sure that we have the system ready with as much capacity as possible prior to any storm.
It says the citizens are concerned with the recent
That's the effluent overflow
Yes,
that took place at the
yeah,
water treatment
yeah,
plant.
yeah.
So utilities manages the water treatment plant. It's outside of my bandwidth beyond saying that from talking with utilities and talking with that very talented team over there that the citizens are in good shape. And obviously the citizens' health is the number one concern for utilities.
Big time. Do you believe that the um, impervious surface is the primary issue to the or related to the runoff and the too big a house and too small a lot theory? That's one of Chuck's
So
favorite.
when the city's I do love Mr. English. When the city was designed, it was designed with full build out in mind. So the impervious surface was considered. There are some considerations though. With all that impervious surface, it's even more important for the water to sit in the swale for a little bit. It helps get all the dirt and grime that was on that surface that the water grabbed and brought down to the street level. It helps get it out of there before it makes it down the way. So as we're seeing the city build out, it does feel different. We're going to see more traffic on the roads. We're going to see, perhaps more water in the swale. We're going to see more building, and it's definitely a change. The city is a gorgeous city. It's still going to be gorgeous, built out, but the city was built in a manner believing that all of these lots would have been built upon.
We do have a very unique sewer system design. And I say that because our swells and our streets uh, basically are it. And if you're coming from a big city and you're used to seeing runoff go underground, we don't have that here. We also have 80 miles of canals, which there aren't too many cities that can say that, first off. Um, and we were designed that way. And that was done prior to anyone else being here. General development laid all these things out with the projections like they are. I am going to go back and talk about our canals though, because keeping them healthy and keeping them functioning is a huge part of the referendum that we have coming up, to where we could get some funding, utilize funding to take care of different structures along the way. Why is that so important for the citizens to understand when they're talking about the flooding side of things? There's also the care and prevention of a lot of things too that happen. Can you kind of talk about those two things and how they work related together?
Absolutely. And as we were talking earlier, I've mentioned water control structures a few times. They're a vital tool for us to be able to utilize to direct the water. We can, if we're doing work in an area, we can actually drop the levels so that people can do work. So it is a fine-tuned system to the point where we can move water all through the city um, to really manipulate the levels. Um, Again, when the system isn't completely full. But without these 64 water control structures, we really would not be able to manage the water at this level. Now, these water control structures were put in when the city was born. So many of them are well over 50, 60 years old. Um, and like anything, left outside to the elements for that many years, you're going to see wear and tear. You're going to start to see failure. However, these structures are not um, they're expensive. So we've got about $4 to $8 million per structure. It takes a while to design it. Um, as mentioned before, the design of the system is extremely important, not just to Northport and moving the water, but the water system all connects. So the way we move water affects our neighbors to the south. It could even affect our neighbors to the north if we stack too much water right at the top of our jurisdictional boundaries. So there's a lot of eyes on how we're designing these structures and how we're making sure that we're being respectful for the water flow. So it takes a little bit of time, but it definitely takes money. Right now, the city is only able to complete one water control structure a year. That means that, we've completed 14. So we've got 50 years before we'd even get to that last water control structure. And that structure would be well over 100 years old by the time we got there. That pace just does not work with the need, especially when we're seeing higher intensity and frequency of storms. Knowing that this infrastructure that is vital for us to move water to manage the system is at this age, makes us really want to be able to address this infrastructure in a faster manner. So when we're talking about this referendum, one of the things we'd be able to do is do maybe 3 or 4 water control structures or, at a time instead of doing one a year. We're not looking to do them all at once. We're not looking to try to get to borrow money to take care of everything. But we want to try to speed this up a little bit. And right now, the city is a pay-as-you-go city, so we can only do as much money as we have in the banks ready to go. It also makes it a little difficult if you've put that, the money that you have ready for water control structure, but then a disaster happens, you're unable to borrow for that disaster. So now instead of being able to address that water control structure, you're taking that money that you have saved up over the years for the water control structure and you're dealing with the disaster. So it can kind of compound, slowing down our ability to deal with critical infrastructure.
And I'm going to go to Chuck's question here in a minute, but
Yes.
along with the gates and different things that we are doing when we're rebuilding, we're also giving the ability to open these structures and control them remotely, which is there's something to be said about that too, versus manpower going physically there and opening and closing these gates. We're actually catching up with the times, and we're actually positioning the city to be in a better position years from now with control because of the remoteness of that new build, correct?
And to some extent, there's something to be said for having staff go out and put their eyes on the structure. So while there are some that have the remote access, um, really, if we're out there working on a water control structure or trying to raise and lower gates when there's a storm happening, you know, that's not the best bet. In most cases, we're out there taking care of these things when it's sunny because then the water is ready. The water control structure is set and ready. What we do during a storm or right after a storm is go out and look at each one to make sure that, a dock didn't break loose and is blocking water flow, or a mattress or anything like big like that. We get a lot of play sets, canoes, kayaks kind of get tangled up in there. So we'll have staff get out there and get that stuff out of the water as quickly as possible, vegetation, trees, when it's safe, so that we can keep the water flowing through those structures. We have staff that go out and check the structures every day. They're always looking to see, is it working properly? Is there anything that is impeding the flow of the water? Is there anything that needs to be addressed? We also have a welder on our team that has the skills to go out and address some of these vital structures.
So Chuck's question is adding gates to water control structure 113. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So water control structure 113 is the structure of the year that we're redoing right now. This structure is just west of Sumter on the Snover. So if you're at City Hall, it's just west of City Hall. It is a very important structure because it's it is the last structure before all of Snover goes into the Myakkahatchee Creek. It is a 6 gate structure. It is just about completed. We're planning on doing a ribbon cutting for this sometime in October. It will be virtual for those of us that aren't right on site. You'll be able to see it all happening. It's kind of tucked back there, so it's not the highest public access place, but we'll be really excited to show kind of before and afters, give an idea of how these water control structures work, how we manage water through them. This is a really good structure to show that. And our next structure is 114, and that is currently in design process right now.
Fantastic. We've got a lot happening in Northport with public works and designing things and the water and the rainstorms that we've had. One of the other topics that's related to public works again, when we have these storms, and I see it all over social media, why are the trash trucks out? Why are they picking up containers when we just had a storm? All these things, believe it or not, they all work together at Public Works, and there is a system in play, isn't there?
There isn't, and I will have to tell you that prior to working at Public Works, I never realized how passionate people are about their trash. We have a customer service representative team at the front of our building, and these ladies do a phenomenal job at answering calls all day, thousands and thousands of calls a week, just about what time is my pickup, what can I put in my trash, can I do a bulk pickup? There's a couple of things at play that aren't readily known. One is whether or not the landfill is open. We want to try to get this debris off the roads as quickly as possible. So if people put their trash bins at the curb and we're having a rain event, it's better to get those picked up before they get knocked over. And now you have all this trash and unsanitary conditions going into our water that is our drinking water. So these guys work really hard. This last storm, solid waste gets here at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. They're on the road. So it wasn't until about 8:30 when the rest of the city was waking up where it was like, well, maybe there's going to be flooding. Maybe there's a concern. The storm had mostly passed Northport. Northport was in pretty good shape. Sarasota County was seeing some major impacts, so they were concerned. And so we already had our team out and about collecting. Once they start collecting, it's really hard to stop. It's confusing to residents if their neighbor got picked up and they don't have their pickup completed. It's also difficult with the truck to be full or partially full. And now you have to figure out what to do with a truck that is full of waste that needs to get to a landfill. Now, things that are out of our control is if the landfill decides to close. Sarasota County runs the landfill. We just drop it off. We don't get to tell them whether or not they should stay open. In this case, Sarasota County did close the landfill, but wasn't until later in the day. So we had already started running. They accommodated us, and we were able to get the debris off the street. Solid community clean and sanitary. So getting any debris that's right there ready to go out of the way so that we can work on the streets, so we can get the water flowing, so we know that it's not going to become a commingled issue is really the best way to go. And our guys work so hard. So I appreciate all the people being concerned about them. They are a very hardworking team. So, if you ever do get the opportunity just to wave, give them a thank you. I know that their trucks kind of block traffic sometimes and they're difficult, but these guys are working really hard to keep our city clean.
Chuck wants to know who the stormwater engineer is and who is the stormwater manager at this time.
So the stormwater manager is Elizabeth Wong. She's been our stormwater manager for I think better than a decade. She is extremely intelligent about stormwater and she can talk water better than anybody can talk water. She is looking to retire in the near future. So we are looking for a replacement for that position. We know that this position is so important that we're looking to hire this position to give, 4 to 6 months of overlap. So there's a good amount of training to get the new person up to speed in this critical position.
And we don't have a lot. There's not a lot of cities out there that mimic ours with the water.
No, we're unique in so many ways.
Yes, and I love it. I love actually bringing that up because we all should really appreciate how unique we are. our stormwater management is our drinking source. Um, and it is so important for people to understand what's behind their home and where it goes. And you know, we talk about the flooding waters, and yet our city is really designed to do exactly what it's doing each and every flood. If it's staying out of your home, that's the way it's designed, right?
And I think that's a really good point. If, maybe we have different definitions of the word flood. Um, the swale system, the canal system, and truly the streets become part of our water conveyance system when there's a significant storm. That is how it was designed. It's to keep the water out of your houses. Now, we all saw that Ian was a very different storm, and I'm not sure what kind of stormwater system would have been able to manage that water. However, when we have water on the road, it is difficult inconvenience. Please don't drive through it. It can be dangerous. We understand that that is, different than many other communities. However, the way this system was designed, that's where the water is going to go so it doesn't go in houses.
And and that's huge for people to understand, because there's the misinformation out there a lot of times is that it's we're flooding. Look at our flood. Our My swell is full of water. 24 to 48 hours, it tends to go away. If it's not, your North Report app is a great way to take a picture of it and send it in, and have people, at City Hall or Public Works check it out. Isn't that the case?
That would be perfect. So if your water, and it's really the rule of thumb is 72 hours past rainfall. Pictures of water on the street, and we can see that it's actually still raining. We're not going to be able to address that. We need to rain some a little bit of time to work, just like your sink works through. And then, if there's still water in the soil at 72 hours, please let us know. We want to come out. We want to see what's going on. We have taken the city and we have divided it into grids, and we go through and do one grid a year and completely redesign or completely bring it back to original design. So we'll dig where we need to dig, we'll fill where we need to fill, we'll put in sod. It is all part of the plan, to make sure that the system is back to how it was designed. But at 72 hours from the last storm, please let us know. Another thing we hear a lot is, I think it needs to be mowed more frequently so the water can go through more. That grass is really important. That grass is what is cleaning the water. Also, if water wants to find a way, it made it through the road price. It made the Grand Canyon. Grass is really not going to stop water flow, not at a significant level at any means. It will clean it. It will make sure that we're providing better water down at the end. But we could mow it every day and there would still be water in that system, and we'd want that water there.
So people really do need like this education base again, understanding sort of where you live and the environment, that it wasn't designed like your typical city. It truly was designed to do exactly what it is doing. And so you're right in the wording. People use that word flood. um, I wish we would switch that to, hey, we're holding water where it's supposed to be held, but we're not flooding because it's not in our house. There's a unique difference between the two, and not calling people out by any stretch of the imagination, but our streets are our sewer system. You just get to see it. It's not underground, and that's the uniqueness of it all. Um, are we looking to change that? And I know this is another oh my god moment for people out there. Citywide, we're not looking to do sewers today. it is something that's projected futuristically, but all of these things are still topics of conversation because we have sewer and water being planned throughout our city, but it's going to take a lot of years to do that.
Well, and let me make just a real quick point. So sewer and water are part of the utilities team, and that is, when someone typically says sewer, they're talking about the water that you flush in your toilet goes, down the drain and it goes to a treatment plant. When we're talking about water movement, we call it the stormwater system. So that's not really sewer. It looks the same and for some people. Some people will consider that the sewer.
Correct.
However, that is a very different system. And the water that goes into our stormwater system is drinking water. It becomes drinking water. So those are very different things. And I think that's one of the confusing things for our community as well. When they see, water going through the street and they're calling it a sewer, that can cause some problems and conceptions.
And that's a whole nother conversation. In talking about those two things, as far as 10 minutes to go left in the show, we're truly like talking about all the different things that happen out there, and people need to step back and kind of realize that canals in their backyards are designed for the flow of water. It was a long night last night. Sorry.
Well, let me tell you about a couple other things we have going on then.
Please do.
We do have, we keep talking about how we have miles and miles of canals, and those canals have done a great job with the water. However, they make it really difficult for us to get around the city. So we saw that after Hurricane Ian when, Price was not available, 75 at some points was not available. Everyone was going on 41. It's hard to get through our city. So we do have a connectivity plan. Part of that plan is to add crossings over some of the canals where it makes sense. We had an engineer consulting firm help us with designing some of this. We are working on purchasing those properties that will be vital connections before they're built with homes on them. We do have one connection north of Snover by Stockton that we currently have it in design right now. So when that crossing becomes available, you'll be able to really make it from Toledo Blade to Sumter. It'll be a little windy, but you'd be able to make it there without ever having to get on Price. And we're looking for more of those connections, both for pedestrian and vehicular traffic, so that we can really connect our community more and take some of the load off of Price, but it also just helps, find different routes you can get through your community a little bit easier. So that's a big project for us. Another big project that we hear a lot about is road rehabilitation. So we did Toledo Blade this year was probably the biggest one. We did Salford. There was some Eldron, Ponce de Leon. This next project that's coming up is going to be redoing Biscayne. I know that Biscayne was done about 10 years ago or so. That asphalt has not met expectations. So we do have a contractor that we're working on getting the legal documents for and that contract through. We should have that contractor in place before December, and they'll start working on Biscayne. Also looking to redo the Highland Park neighborhood and get new streets through there. So you'll see some of that work happening. I know that potholes are a concern. So especially with this kind of rain and then traffic, the water can really tear up the streets. So working through those. And one other big project that I hear about a lot are, when are we going to put signals at the intersections for I-75 and Toledo Blade and for Sumter? Now, this is a tricky project because while it's in the heart of Northport, and it's very vital to us, those are FDOT roads, and this is really FDOT's land. So typically they would be the ones running with it. Because it's so important to the city, we did develop our own capital improvement project, put some money in there. We've been really working with FDOT on this. We've gotten a few grants for this work. We are working on doing temporary signals the city ourselves with help from FDOT at Toledo Blade intersection. And then permanent signals will come at both Toledo Blade and Sumter. It takes a while to make sure that any changes that we make, especially to traffic patterns at 75 or other high volume routes, they have to be studied and they have to be done in an appropriate manner. So there's going to be a lot of work. It's not just about when the signal is done, but the whole construction process and the maintenance of traffic when the construction is happening. Those take a lot of review. So I know that people are like, just get a signal in there. We are very far along in the process, but it will still take a little bit of time before you see those signals.
And working with FDOT, how is that relationship, and what do you guys do there to keep everything moving forward?
Over the last couple of years, we have really worked to improve our relationship with FDOT. We have representatives from FDOT that come and visit us annually. They bring their maintenance team, their engineering team, and we talk about issues that we have. We have direct contacts with FDOT. We have agreements with FDOT where we maintain some of their infrastructure. And, we've really been building on that relationship. They see that Northport is a fast growing community with a lot of traffic coming on and off of 75 and 41, and realize the concerns that we have. And they're very supportive. However, like I said, the review and permitting process does take a little bit of time to make sure everyone is safe.
So let's hit just a little bit now with the connection that you guys have with Northport Forward and why people should come out. You guys held the event on Price Boulevard widening, and you actually had the leg out at the Mullen Center. More people should have come out to see what was happening there, because you're really trying to get this education out to the citizens. So the importance of Northport Forward and working in conjunction with them, but also why people should really be checking out the social media pages and also the website.
John, it must be difficult for you because I know you talk a lot and you really try to get people engaged. To hear what I hear frequently, people will show up and say, "Hey, I had no idea. I had no idea this was happening. I never heard. I didn't hear anything about this." And I look around and I know that at least 5 flyers went out, 2 press releases, 3 social media posts, and great conversations like this. So anything we can do to provide honest, factual, in the sunshine, transparent information to our residents to make them more engaged and more knowledgeable about what's happening in the city, we're looking for those opportunities. If people find that there's a better way to get information out, our communications team is always working with us. We're developing stories and posts, and all kinds of quality information goes out all of the time. So please engage with the City of Northport on our social media pages. Please follow this wonderful radio station because John provides a lot of great information to our community. It's also great. We're working with John's team to use this source for emergencies going forward to make sure that we're able to get information out to our patrons. But members of the city, if you can join the civics group, if you can join an advisory board, if you can come to a commission meeting, we would love to get to know you. We'll have conversations. We'll address your concerns. There's nothing wrong that can come from good communication.
Good conversation never hurts anybody. So this is John
Even if we
Rawlings.
disagree.
Yeah, well, listen, we can all disagree, but you got to have a conversation to get anywhere. So I've enjoyed having you on the show. I appreciate your time. I've got a little bit of driving to do because I got to finish out the drive getting home from Georgia now. So thanks for being part of the live stream.
Drive safe.
Thanks. Appreciate it. This is John Rawlings with Real Talk and the City of Northport, saying thanks, be safe out there, and have a great day, and slow it down on 75. Get home safe. We'll talk to you guys soon.